welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Dr. David Hooper. Welcome to the Unstoppable Introvert Project. And I hope you are having an incredible week and you are ready for another life-changing episode. Today's an interesting one. It's a different one. We're going to be talking about NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Now, that sounds pretty complicated and theoretical, and let me ease those fears. It's very, very practical. It's something that you can do immediately. That's the thing that separates this podcast from every other one. I give you the tools and the tips and the techniques and the frameworks to go and change your life today. Like today. Like during this podcast. Not even at the end, during. You will be able to step out of the podcast. Don't, because we're going to have a good one. But if you did, you could go and change your life right this second. And that's what today's all about. It's about applying these tools to your life and making that change. Now, something I don't really shout about enough probably, is that I'm an NLP practitioner. I'm a qualified neuro-linguistic programmer, if you like. And it's something that I find fascinating. So it's all about how our mind works, how our nervous system works, but also how our language works and how we use it. I know I've talked about tonality a few times and the types of things we say. And it's all about how we program those thoughts, those feelings, those behaviours. This is a methodology rather than a theory. So it's a method you can use to change your life. And it is something that could be a real positive for you. It's all about kind of providing answers to questions, but also solutions to problems. The thing that I want you to come into this podcast episode with is having that mindset of your perspective can always be shifted. It can be changed, it can be manipulated, it can be adjusted. And if you imagine the Matrix with the red and the blue pill, NLP has been likened to you having that red pill and essentially awakening and realizing there's a lot more going on than you actually think. It's all about developing that attitude for curiosity, that wanting to learn and to grow and to develop. I've met a lot of introverts who could go on to achieve incredible things, but unfortunately they are in a world of closed minds. And until you're able to open your mind, to shift your perspective, to be open to other possibilities, you probably won't change. You need to be able to, develop that attitude of curiosity. I love that saying, that desire to learn and to grow and to change. And we do that through NLP. So I know I've mentioned them briefly before, but the N is for neuro. And this refers to the study of the mind and your nervous system. And we are going to get into this in a moment, guys, so don't worry if it's a little bit overwhelming at this stage. The L is linguistic, the study of language and how we use it. That's arguably some of my favorite work. And then finally, programming. This is the sequencing of our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and our actions as well. Patterns learned and reinforced by experience. NLP is about having a positive attitude, not positive thinking. So they're slightly different things. Basically, a positive attitude is knowing that whatever happens, you can deal with it. This isn't just thinking, I'm good. No, it's having that attitude of whatever comes in my way, I'm going to change my mindset, or I'm going to use a different terminology. I'm going to behave in a different way. I'm going to feel a different way. I'm going to think a different way to deal with whatever situation is put in front of me. And that is what we are looking for when we start to apply NLP. Now, as an introvert, you can definitely acknowledge how amazing would it be if you could adjust your mindset, adjust your language, adjust your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors to be able to take that massive action and change your life. Whether it's the starting of that business, being more confident in team meetings, dating that girl you've seen across the bar, starting that crazy podcast that you hope Unstoppable Introverts are listening to. Whatever it is for you, if you are able to capture the essence of this podcast today, you can do that. You can literally do it today, guys. But regarding learning, and this was something that I kind of got to know during my master's degree before my PhD, was that confusion is a necessary step before understanding. So when you're learning something, before you fully grasp what it is, there's a moment where you think, I have no idea what's going on here. And for the majority of my master's degree, I was incredibly confused. I was in a place of pure kind of shock, not knowing what was going on. And then one day it clicked and I understood, what was going on, and I was able to go and get my master's degree. Now, a great phrase that underpins all that is, if you always do what you've always done, you will always get what you've always got. Now, that relates to your situation right now. Are you willing to make a change? Are you willing to jump into the pool? Are you willing to take that chance and create that life that I know you are destined to live in? I hope the answer is yes, but do not fret if you are confused at any point or you think, what on earth's going on here? As long as you stay the course and focus on the task at hand, you will start to change your life and apply these principles. And it's very exciting thinking about that. If we quickly just go through the stages of learning, it's all about 4 kind of steps. The first is unconscious incompetence. This is where you've got no idea what's going on and you don't really know what's going on. You've then got conscious incompetence, so you're aware of what's going on, you still just have no idea what is happening. You then have conscious competence, where you're aware of what's going on and you're starting to get better at it. And then finally, unconscious competence, which is where you do these things without even thinking about it. If you think about driving the car, you go through those 4 stages. We've all been in the car on that first lesson where you are like, I've got no idea how to do this. I don't know how to change gears with a stick. I don't know which pedal's gas, what's the clutch, who knows. Then gradually, you start to get better. You start to do that first couple of lessons and you're grinding the gears and your instructor's maybe doing the dual braking with you. That's conscious incompetence. So you're starting to have an idea what's going on, but you're still pretty shit. You're then into conscious competence, which is where you're starting to do the thing, like driving a car well, but it takes a lot of concentration. You're like, right, I need to be driving, I need to be aware of the speed limit. Now I need to take my foot off the gas, put my foot on the clutch, put my gear in, change gear, take my clutch foot off, put it back on gas, keep my eye on the speed limit, look in my mirrors, and we're very conscious about doing these things. But then in a few years' time, you move into unconscious competence. And this is where you're driving along and then 15 minutes later, you realize you've got no idea where you've been, how you've got to where you've got to, because it was just unconscious driving. And that is exactly the same as learning how to do NLP. It is exactly the same. It will start where you're having to really be aware of your thoughts and feelings and behaviours and how you're acting. But by the end of it, in a few years' time, or even less, a few months' time, if you're actively trying to develop these skills, you will be able to put these into practice immediately. Take me, for instance, when I'm speaking on stage and I change my state. I go from being fairly anxious and stressed and worried to a confident and focused individual, all by changing my thoughts, my feelings, and my behaviors. And sometimes I'm changing my mindset in there as well, and some language. So you can do this, and I'm going to bring this to life for you as well. So basically, NLP is underpinned by presuppositions, and it's kind of like their underpinning concepts. And we've got 10 that we're going to talk through very quickly today. We're not going to spend too much time going through this kind of theory. I just want to give you an overview of what it is, and then we can start to get into how we apply this. It's not fact, all right? It's kind of like a philosophy, a guiding philosophy. These are beliefs that those who practice NLP have. So remember, we've talked about beliefs in previous episodes. They aren't facts. They can be changed. They can be shifted. That is exactly the same here. And these beliefs are kind of useful in presupposing certain things. So let's go through them. Number one, have respect for the other person's model of the world. So for you, that means you just need to be aware of other people's thoughts and feelings and not trying to push your own agenda on other people. You need to focus on what you can control, and that is your thoughts and beliefs. You need to have respect for what other people think. We're all unique and experience the world in different ways. Again, this is being really open to other people and how they interact with the world. All you can do is focus on how you interact with the world and how you are your best self in every situation. We construct our model of the world based on what we've been taught and told, the assumptions we make about what things mean, and our past experiences. Now, again, every single person is going to have been told something different and taught something different. Everybody's going to have different assumptions about what those different things mean. And lastly, everybody's experiences of their past are going to be different as well. So this is all about focusing in on our beliefs and what we can control and really getting that crystal clear. Remember, a lot of that pain and frustration and anxiety and overwhelm comes from focusing on what other people are thinking or doing. And if we can just shut our minds off to that and focus on our own presuppositions, our underpinning concepts, if you like, our values and beliefs, then we are going to be in a good place to grow. You do not have to agree with another person's model to have respect for their right to have it. Now, a lot of the times we can have differing opinions, and sometimes you might think that it's actually the other person who doesn't respect your opinions, and that could well be the case. But again, you can't control that. So a lot of these presuppositions focus on your ability to control what you can control and focus within and make sure that you are being the best version of yourself by accepting that another person might have different ideas and different models to you, and there's nothing you can do about it. So that was presupposition 1. Presupposition 2, the map is not the territory. And what I mean by that is people respond to their map of reality, not the reality itself. So again, it's all about how other people are looking at their map of reality. How people make sense of the world around them is through their senses and from their own personal experiences. Everyone's perceptions are different of the same event. So that's something that is really cool, you know, how you're in a certain situation, and lots of people might think differently. Some might think it's good, some might think it was bad, some might think it was positive, some might think it was negative. You need to think about your own perspective, but also acknowledge other people's perspective. So if you think, let's say you're on the road, you're driving, someone undercuts you, they're beeping the horn, they're swearing at you, they look crazed and they speed off. You might, in one reality, think, I am so pissed that they just did that. In another reality, you might think maybe they were on the way to the hospital to visit someone who didn't have long left to live. So they're cutting up traffic and doing what they can to get there on time. There's always different perspectives on these different situations you find yourself in. But this is very much thinking about how other people are looking at their maps, as in their kind of situations, and you're looking at that same situation through a different lens. Let's think about presupposition number 3. Your mind and body form a linked system. So your mental attitude affects your body and your health, and in turn, how you behave. Have you ever found that where your mental attitude has affected your body and your health? A prime example of this is when I was clinically depressed and I was feeling so low, and my poor mental attitude affected my body. I wasn't able to move. All I did was eat. My health declined rapidly. And my behavior was, I was a shell of a man. So your mental attitude really affects your body, your health, and how you behave. And then the next part, remember your mind and body interact and influence each other. So although like I've just mentioned, your mind can negatively affect your body can positively affect your mind and vice versa. So if you've ever heard of changing state, you might have that brain fog. If you just go for a quick run and come back, because you've changed your state, your mind will be freed from that brain fog, hopefully, and you'll be able to crack on with whatever task that you were struggling with. So remember, mind and body interact and influence each other. And then lastly, make a change in one and the other is affected. So yeah, similar to that kind of changing state example, if you actively change what it is that you're doing, whether it's mental stimulation or maybe physical stimulation through the form of exercise or whatever, you're going to change your state and you're going to feel a lot better about it. So remember, make that change in one, either your brain or your body, and you are going to really feel the benefits of that. Presupposition 4. If what you're doing isn't working, do something else. Remember, flexibility is the key to success. Now, I love this one because it is so easy. It's like that quote about madness, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. No, we need to change something. And, when I was morbidly obese, that is the exact mindset I had. And clinically depressed, that is. I was waking up feeling horrendous every single day. I knew something had to change. And that was, 1, I needed to work on my mindset. And 2, I needed to move more. And 3, I needed to eat less. I changed those things, lost the weight, changed my mindset, transformed my life. So it really is that easy, guys. And you can do it too. So remember, if whatever you're doing isn't working, do something else. Presupposition 5. Choice is better than no choice. The more choice you have, the freer you are. Try and keep those options open and try make sure that you are in a position where choices are abundant, that you have options. Remember, having no choice actually means you find the choices available unacceptable in some way. There's always a choice. If you are struggling to start a business, maybe it's because you haven't found the right business and you need to go and do some research and find 20 that you might start. Or maybe you feel like you are in a dead-end job and you feel awful. Well, maybe it's time to go and look and see if there's any other jobs you can go and apply for. Create choice for yourself. So choice is better than no choice. Presupposition 6, we are always communicating. So remember, these presuppositions are the underpinning concepts of NLP. And when you get your head around these, because I'm sure you're probably thinking, I'm very overwhelmed right now, and I'm not sure what is going on. You're in that kind of confused state before that understanding state. Remember that you will grasp this when we start to practically apply them. I just want to give you an overview of these 10 presuppositions, and you can look at them on Google as well. Just type in NLP presuppositions and you can find some more information around them there. We're always communicating. Even when we're silent, we are communicating. As introverts, that's incredibly powerful. So your ability to communicate that you are maybe a confident person or a hard worker or a driven, disciplined person, you can do that without even talking. It can be silent. So even when we're silent, we're still communicating. Non-verbal communication can account for a large proportion of the message you're trying to send. So you basically can not communicate. It's as easy as that. So yeah, we're always communicating. Presupposition 7, the meaning of your communication is the response you get. So take responsibility for your communication. While your intentions may be clear to you, it is the other person's interpretation and response that reflect your effectiveness. Now, I am terrible for assuming the other person knows what I'm on about. I always assume they know more than they do, maybe. And that's not kind of like in a dig, but I'm quite experienced in lots of different situations. I just assume everyone else is. And sometimes my communication skills could be better. So make sure that you are pitching your communication at the right levels. You're being really clear with what you're trying to do and talk about, and make sure your message lands. With NLP, you will develop the skills and flexibility you need to ensure that the message you're sending will be the message that they'll receive. Presupposition 8, there's no failure, only feedback. What seemed like failure is often just the result of giving up too soon. Now again, this is one of my favorite presuppositions, those underlying concepts of NLP, and this relates to giving up too soon. A lot of people would be successful if they just hadn't stopped. Sometimes it's quantity over quality. Sometimes it's quality over quantity, of course. But sometimes it's just turning up with imperfect action day in, day out. And that will lead to success no matter what it is that you're doing. So make sure that you don't give up too soon. And remember, failure is only failure if you stop showing up. Failure is feedback if you keep showing up. So again, remove failure from your terminology and make sure that you just see it as an opportunity to get some feedback. And then when you do get that feedback, make sure you pay attention to it. How often have you got feedback and then gone and made the same mistake? Make sure you tweak the thing that you're doing. Remember, it's just madness to be doing the same thing over and over and over and think that you're going to get a different result. It does not happen. And then, of course, when you start to acknowledge the feedback, if you notice why you didn't achieve the desired outcome, you can use that feedback to adjust whatever you're doing, of course. So it's important that we keep showing up, we do the damn thing, and that we listen to the feedback that we get. And then we learn from that feedback and make any changes that we need to do. Presupposition 9, behind every behavior, there is a positive intention. We have to believe this, because if you go around in your life thinking there's too much negativity in the world, you will attract negativity into your life. I have a family member who looks for negativity. They look for it at work, they look for it in friends, they look for it in family, and they find it, and they are not a very happy person. So that is something we need to make sure we are prioritizing. Always look for the good in something. Behind every behavior, there is a positive intention. When we understand that other people have some positive intentions in what they are saying and doing, it can be easier to stop getting angry and start to move forward. It's easier to stop dwelling on that situation at work, or if that co-worker was an arse, or whatever they do. We're able to separate what the behavior was that pissed you off, but also the intention behind it. Maybe there was a good intention behind it that you missed because you were so focused on the behavior. Maybe you're getting pissed off at your co-worker because they are on the phone a lot, but the intention is there that they are trying to get in touch with someone who's poorly at home, and they're trying to just get some peace of mind that everything's okay at home, so they can then do their work properly and show up at their job better and maybe make your life easier, so they don't have to go off sick and you don't have to cover for them. Who knows what that positive intention might be? And lastly, presupposition number 10, anything can be accomplished if the task is broken down into small enough tasks. Isn't that so true? When you're looking at Mount Everest, it's a big hill to climb up. But if you just focus on taking one step at a time, eventually you will reach the top. Achievement becomes easier if activities are manageable. I'm going to say that again for the people in the back. Achievement becomes easier if activities are manageable. Try and break those goals down into manageable chunks. We spoke last time about the 7 well-formed outcomes when it comes to goal setting, and it's exactly the same here. If you can break down your goals into manageable chunks, then we can make sure you take those little baby steps, and like I say, those baby steps grow into this massive goal. Will Smith talked about a really cool example when he was younger. His dad made him and his brother build this massive wall, I think when they were quite young, like 6 or 7, and this wall was really long, really wide, really high. And his dad said, forget about thinking about the massive wall when they were complaining, and instead just focus on putting the next brick down. Just concentrate on the next brick. That's what Will and his brother did, and eventually they built this massive wall. And now Will Smith took that into every aspect of his life when it came to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, movies, health and fitness, businesses. He just focuses on that next brick every single time. So NLP can help you learn how to analyze what needs to be done and find ways to be both efficient and effective as well. Remember, NLP isn't about fixing others and neglecting yourself at all. It's about you. You are the most important here. Remember when you're on that aeroplane going on holiday and you've got the oxygen mask on? It's exactly the same here. You need to put your own oxygen mask on first so you can then help others around you and have the impact you want on this world. Because I know you do. You know, I can tell from the interactions I'm having with people, I can tell from the types of conversations I'm having, you guys want to have incredible impacts. You want to be unstoppable introverts. And when you're able to program your mind, when you're able to make those mindset shifts, change the tonality or language or vocabulary in your voice, have the ability to reprogram your values and thoughts and behaviours and take major action, you are going to start to not only change your own world, but change other people's worlds as well. So that's a bit of an overview when it comes to NLP. A couple of the essentials though is, if you think about the brain, there are 4 million pieces of information every second. 4 million every second. And it's a bit like the hardware of a computer. You've got your 5 senses, see, hear, taste, touch and smell. The mind is a bit like the software of the computer. So if you've got the hardware of the computer, those 5 senses, you've got the mind, which is like the software of the computer. The mind filters out all of the information, and there's something called the reticular activating system, which I'm not going to talk about too much today, but it's a part of the brain which does that for you. I love the RAS system, and we're going to talk about that in future episodes, but today I just wanted to drop it in there. Something to Google if you want to, and it's all about how it sieves out all of the information that you can kind of see. We then have internal representation. These are how we make sense of everything. We have filters which help us do that. We have 3 main filters: deletion, distortion, and generalization. These are neither good or bad. They just are. They're just there. They can be both empowering or limiting, depending on our interpretation. We all have our own unique way of filtering based on our previous experiences. And I'll talk you through these 3 filters and just start to be aware of them as you go through the next few days. Because like we say, these are in you, and when you're aware of how they work, you can start to change them and shift them. So let's start with delete. This is selective attention. We focus on certain things and leave out or delete other things. Deletion impacts our experience because you don't notice what you don't notice until you do. So just think, and this is a hard thing to do, just think about the information that you are noticing and information that you aren't noticing. And you can start to begin to shift that perspective a little bit. We then have distort. This is shifts in experiences or misrepresentations. We are all meaning makers. This is kind of like creative thinking or making assumptions, making certain things fit your perception or filters. It's like something that might not be true, and you talk yourself into thinking that it is true. You know, oh, that person ignored me at work, right? Let's say that. And then over time, you are going, yeah, they regularly ignore me. Yeah, this person must hate me, right? This person is being horrible to me. This person's starting to bully me. And they might not have even noticed that they'd not seen you. And it might have only have happened once. But you're starting to create this mad narrative, and it can really affect you mentally. So be aware of any narratives you're starting to create. And we then have generalize, taking individual examples and transforming them into universals. Can be limiting, it can be empowering, but it's basically where something's happened once and you say, right, that is the thing that happens every time. So let's say you have an experience where you do really poorly in a job interview. you then might generalize that and say, I will never be good in job interviews ever, ever, ever again. Even though it only happened once and you've done nothing about it. It's where you generalize this information. When we're starting to think about NLP then, and we've got all these different sensors, we've got personal filters, we've got linguistic filters, try and think about some of these little tips as we go through the session. When speaking, think about how you are deleting, distorting, and generalizing. Is your terminology deleting some information? Or is it twisting something to fit your narrative? Or are you generalizing whatever situation you found yourself in to the wider narrative you're creating? Try and consider how you might make your verbal descriptions rich. Really try and bring to life whatever you're doing with this rich, positive, open narrative. An honest narrative. You're not assuming anything. When you're listening, stop making assumptions that fill in the delete, distort, or generalize in other person's descriptions. You're not trying to put them in whatever someone else is saying. You're not putting them in your own categories. You are actively listening to what they're saying. Ask, what do you mean by X, Y, and Z? This will allow you to explore other people's thoughts and feelings and realities rather than assuming yours is the same as theirs. So I know we got quite deep today. I know we got into some theory. I hope you're able to just start to think about how your mind works, how your terminology works, how your thoughts and feelings and beliefs work. And I hope that NLP might be something that you can practically apply. So think about those immediate changes you can do literally today. Think about your mindset shifts. Can you rephrase or change your state? Think about your language. Can you change the language, terminology, your vocabulary, the types of things you're saying? And then lastly, think about your values, beliefs, and behaviors and what action you can take to really disrupt all of those things as well. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you all. I am so blessed to have you listening, and the feedback that I'm getting is incredible, and I just want to give you as much value as possible. So if there's anything you want me to talk about, please slide into my DMs at Dr. David Hooper. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn. Please subscribe on YouTube at Dr. David Hooper and on Spotify, the Unstoppable Introvert Project podcast. And remember, being an introvert isn't the thing that will hold you back. It is the thing that will launch you towards being the greatest version of yourself. Until next time, stay unstoppable.